All right, y'all. So this is my first time doing a reaction video. So what I just did right now is I scrolled through my homepage and picked out something that I think would be pretty intriguing. Okay, don't kill me too much on this. I'ma just watch this. I've never watched this before, so let's get into it. This is a video by Jordan Peterson, and I want to see what he has to say because it's about a topic that I think I'm pretty good in myself. So let's see what he says and if I agree with it. All right, let's go.
Look, let's say you're socially anxious. Okay, so what happens?
A lot of captions in German. It's definitely German. Anyways, let's go.
When you're socially anxious, you go to a party, your heart's beating. Why? The party is a monster. Why? Because it's judging you. And it's judging you, it's putting you low down the dominance hierarchy, because that's what a negative judgment is. And that interferes with your sexual success.
I mean, listen, what he says actually makes a lot of sense, but it's interesting because we never really consider the opposite thing that could be happening. People could be probably looking at you, and when you come in, they're probably looking at you and admiring what you got on or what you're looking like. So it's like, I don't know why we do this as human beings. We tend to think negatively right away, but that's not always the case.
And that means that you're being harshly evaluated by nature itself, right? So you are confronting the dragon of chaos when you go into the social situation. And so what do? You're like this, right? You hunch over, and that's low dominance. I'm no threat. It's like, well, that's not going to get you very far. You know, but that's a logical thing to do in the face of a tyrant. So I'm no threat. You know, you look at the king and you're dead. I'm no threat. I'm hunched over. And then what's happening internally? What are people thinking about me? What are people thinking about me? Am I looking stupid? Am I looking foolish? Geez, I'm awkward. I hate being here. Man, I'm sweating too much. It's all internalized, right? It's all self-focused. The eye isn't working. What do you tell people? Don't stop thinking about yourself, because you can't. It's like, don't think of a white elephant. White elephant, white elephant, white elephant. You can't tell someone to stop thinking about something because they get caught in a loop. What you do with socially anxious people is you say, look at other people. Look at them, right?
Look at them. How'd he say that? Look at other people. I guess the reason why you would look at other people is so that the focus is not on yourself, it's more so on them. So you could just think about how you're gonna react and interact with those people instead of thinking about what they're thinking about you. I want to see what he's gonna say.
Why? Because if you look at them, you can tell what they're thinking. And then unless you're terribly socialized, and some people are. Some people have no social skills, and so the reason they can't go to a party is because they don't even know how to introduce themselves. Like no one ever taught them how to behave, and so they're really good candidates for behavior therapy, because you walk them through the process of how you actually manifest the procedures that are associated with social acceptability. But most people aren't like that. They have the ability. So if they're really introverted and high in neuroticism, they can usually talk quite well to someone one-on-one.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Because they look at them. Well, if I look at you, it's another thing to do if you're ever speaking to a group of people. Never speak to the group of people. That doesn't exist. You talk to individuals, and then they reflect for you the entire group, because they're all entrained. So you look at one person, they broadcast to you what everyone's thinking, and you know how to talk to one person.
That's some pretty good advice for somebody who is considered socially anxious. I think that you can talk to a group of people, but the thing is, you have to be well versed and had practice with talking to a group of people, like at a group, kind of like in a presentation style. But it's not for presentation. But for someone who isn't well trained or who hasn't had much practice, being a socially awkward person or someone who has social anxiety, I think that's good advice to just focus on one person, because you'll be having that interaction with them, and then it'll be more personal, as opposed to trying to overtake this big task of talking to an entire group.
So it's easy. So as soon as you focus on the person, not you, you push your attention outward, use your eye, you push your attention outward, and you start watching. Well, then all your automatic mechanisms kick in, and you stop being awkward. Because if we're talking, and I'm looking here, I don't know what you're going to do next, and I'm going to put disjunctions into the, like they're like bad chords in the melody of our conversation, and the reason is I'm not paying attention. So that's why the I is the thing at the top of the pyramid. It's like the thing that enables you to win the set of all possible dominance hierarchies is the I. Pay attention. Pay attention.
And that's an interesting point. Something that I always, and this is kind of like not in the same topic, but something that I always found interesting. I used to have a dog, right? And one of the things that I noticed about dogs and other animals as well, but because this was my dog, is that dogs look directly into your eye, and this is instinctual. They didn't have to get taught to make eye contact. They just know that they have to look at you and look in you directly in your eyes in order to communicate. Even though they can't speak human languages, they are communicating via the eyes. So this is an instinctual thing that we do, that mammals do, is have eye contact in order to interact with the world around them, or the organisms who also have eyes around them. So the discussion about the eye is very valid.
That's the critical issue. That's why the Egyptians worshipped Horus. That's why Horus was the thing that rescued Osiris from the depths. It's the capacity to pay attention. What do you pay attention to most? What your right hemisphere signals as anomalous. It attracts your attention. It's like, this isn't going quite right. I'm not looking at that. Wrong. That's what you look at. That's what you look at. What's not going right, because that's the terrible monster that might eat you, but it's also the place you get all the information. So that's why it's useful to have discussions with your enemies, because they will tell you things you do not know. And that's such a great thing, because if you don't know them, well, you're not very smart, are you?
I mean, having discussions with your enemies could turn out bad for you, but I see what he's trying to say here.
You know, there may be a time when you go somewhere that's the thing you need to know. And maybe your enemy will tell you why you're such a fool, you know, and a bunch of other things that aren't true too. But even one thing that's accurate, it's like, yeah, thanks very much, man. Maybe I'll do some work on that. And I won't have to carry that forward. So, and then that's part of the reason, again, why the terrible predator, it's always the terrible predator that has the gold. It's like, it's the person who delivers the message you do not want to hear. So it's rough, but it doesn't matter. Life is rough.
Yeah, so I think that video highlights something that is very important to discuss, which is that even though something could be very terrifying or overly overwhelming for you, just try to get through it and try not to attack it as this big daunting task. Try to break it down into smaller steps and just kind of simplify it so that you're paying attention to one thing. You're paying attention to one thing or one person and trying to just make sure that that interaction is solid and it's actually useful and helpful for you. Whatever comes out of that conversation is what comes out of that conversation. But you'll find oftentimes that if you go through that discomfort, you'll end up being a better person. And not only will you end up being a better person, you'll end up having more information that you've gathered from that interaction to help you in the next interaction. So that's really good advice. And I think that for people who have social anxiety, they will benefit highly from just going out there and trying to overcome their fears by just taking things one step at a time. All right, so that's my reaction to this. Definitely going to do some more reactions. Stay tuned.